Welcome to Love for Life, the podcast for modern couples who want to build relationships that last while raising families that thrive.
We're Nichole and Ben Theroux. Nichole's the expert and I am the other half of this partnership, bringing the everyday perspective of a guy doing the work alongside you.
Every week we cut through the BS and give you the real tools for real life, because your relationship isn't just personal, it's the foundation for everything. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to this episode of the Love for Life podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk about, we've got to talk about Louis Theroux's Inside the Manosphere documentary. How could we not?
Is a lot on it.
I don't even know where to begin.
I mean, some of the people that were on it I've seen before.
Okay.
So that Harrison, I can't remember his surname, but the HS Tiki Toki, I've seen
what
him.
A stupid name.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've seen him on TikTok before, and he says that it's like that's what he does to make money. He's there. I think he knows how to be divisive to then create his wealth. But it's infuriating to watch for me personally, as a bloke and a father of a boy. Like, it's infuriating to think that those sort of people hold so much power and influence over the next generation. He obviously doesn't believe in what he spouts, because that point, obviously there will be spoilers in this episode as well. That point where Louis was questioning him in front of his mum, and he was backing down on everything.
I don't think he backed down on everything.
Well, she pulled faces, didn't she?
She pulled
and then
faces.
He was like, but no, it's not what I mean. So he did back down on things. But then I've also noticed a big conversation being had about his mum as well, and the fact that she enables his behaviour ultimately because he's a meal ticket, and the way that she then reacted afterwards to Louis Theroux, and enabling his behaviour. It's just dangerous. I think if I saw our son, speaking about women like he does, I'd knock him into next week.
We don't condone violence, by the way.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you say, I'm glad you brought up the mum, because there's a lot of questions, as you say, that have been asked, not only about the men who are promoting this way of life, but also the parents in which have raised them. And what I find interesting is, in every situation, every one of the men that were interviewed were raised by single mothers that were missing a male role model. And to me, the whole thing just really showed daddy issues and lost boys who are walking around in a man's body, but really are just very immature boys who've never had a dad there or a male role model there to show them what being a man is about. And so they've got these really silly ideas that have never really been questioned. And the other thing that I really noticed was that Harrison guy that you were just referring to, his mum works 2 jobs to put him through a private education. Like, he's not stupid. Ultimately, to some degree, they're not stupid because they're making this kind of money. They know what works. They know to be shocking. They know that attention is key, and it's a pyramid scheme at the end of the day, and they are at the top of the pyramid. But what was interesting is she doesn't agree with what he was saying. But the moment that Louis then said he didn't agree with it, she then turned on Louis of, I can say that I don't agree with it, but you can't. And she started to stick up for him because she was pulling faces, as you say, as Harrison was talking. But the moment then Louis sort of questioned him, then she got defensive. That's my child, that's my boy, you can't say anything against him, even though she didn't agree. As you say, yeah, she thinks he's doing very well, and she's got her turkey teeth and all the rest of it, and is probably now living off the proceeds of what he's making. Very similar to Bonnie Blue's mother, who goes on TV shows and says that she completely condones what her daughter's doing because her daughter's keeping her in a very nice lifestyle. But surely you have to take some responsibility, as, clearly his mum doesn't agree with what he's saying. perhaps, you know, there's an element of I would love to have had a man to take care of me and I was never in that position. I had to work 2 jobs to look after my child single-handedly. So actually, if a man can be made to be strong and very solvent and take care of things, and actually I would have quite liked the life of being the kept woman. Perhaps there's an element of that. But it's gone so far beyond that, and she doesn't agree with that. That was very clear in the documentary. But she can not agree with it, but not enough to do anything about it, and certainly not enough to hear somebody else criticise her son and go, well, actually, he's right. What you're saying is wrong. So these boys, these men, don't get here on their own. It's very much what they've had access to growing up, i.e. he's been given everything by his mum and nothing by his dad. And I think there was even a point in which he said he's met up with his dad and he doesn't bear him any anger towards leaving and the abandonment issues that he clearly has, because he still is desperate for his dad's love. And that's what I think so much of this is about. I just saw, as I said, really, to be honest, insecure, very lost young men who are in desperate need of really strong, healthy role models, which were just absent. And mums just did everything they could to be mum and dad and to give them everything, and in the process ruined them.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that single parents will all do that. Certainly,
I didn't say all single parents.
No,
I said these ones.
These ones, exactly. I know. I'm caveating that. It's there is something. It's a very specific sort of culmination of things that's caused this. The lack of a male role model, definitely, because they've not been taught respect towards women. 99% of the male population understand. In fact, probably more than that.
Sorry, say that again.
I said they haven't learned respect towards like females to
Yeah.
women.
What percentage did you say?
I'd say 99 or more than 99% of the men. What?
They're not 1%. That's why there is so much violence towards girls and women, and why it's such a huge issue. They're not 1%.
No. Okay. Let me rephrase that then. Functioning, normal people understand respect to not just women, but to everyone. Whereas these people have weaponized the fact that they are missing something almost. And they know that there's a demographic that feel the same way. And they know that they can weaponize what they're missing as well. Ultimately, they're con artists. They are looking for vulnerable people. Like that, again, that Harrison kid, he spouts on about women and how what they're worth and I'm better than them, but he's there, and OnlyFans is bad, but then he's got a managing agency for OnlyFans, and he's like, well, I'm going to make money off of it, aren't I? So,
yeah, no,
but you fundamentally don't agree with it, and then you are going to create an agency to promote these women, and he has those women on his podcasts or whatever, the same as the other ones do as well, same as Myron Gaines. Yeah. So he's the fella that does the podcast with the other two. They got like a Vice City sort of image as their sort of podcast art, I think it is. But yeah, they basically just bring women on to make them feel bad and berate them to make themselves feel better. And every single person, apart from Justin Waller's partner, were women that didn't feel comfortable with what they said, were women that didn't feel comfortable with the one-way monogamy, as they called it. And even though they said, oh yeah, she knows what it's about, she's happy with it, yeah, there's going to be more women in the bedroom. And even that Justin Waller, even his wife, she was okay with it, but she wasn't ecstatic about it. Like didn't seem like something she was chasing for. It was something to keep him happy, because personally to me, it looked like she was happy with the lifestyle, and she knows there's going to be sacrifices to keeping the lifestyle, because otherwise he'll find the next person that is happy to make those sacrifices to be kept in the lifestyle.
Yeah, she didn't want to know when he was playing away, but accepted that he would play away and had made peace with it, because I think you're right. She had decided what she was willing to sacrifice in order to keep in the lifestyle that she was accustomed to, and didn't want to change that. To be honest, is that different to like generations gone by when very rich aristocratic men had women who were kept in a lifestyle and had a mistress on the side. And as long as you didn't flaunt the mistress in front of the wife and out in society, then it was all known that it went on. It's not
a new concept.
That dissimilar in terms of women didn't have any voting rights, women didn't make any decisions, women were there to bear children and raise children. The problem is that worked back in a time when, you know, there was no equality. Women weren't allowed to work, women weren't allowed to vote, women, you know, had no rights, and we have corrected that, and they're trying to kind of keep with that very old image. And I think even then women were still protected their virtue was still protected to some degree, and they weren't disposable.
And also they weren't flaunted on the internet.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's what you mean by their virtue was protected, because it wasn't a case of, like, I think the worst one out of a lot of them was that HS Tiki Toki, because it was like, oh yeah, well I've got a video here, I've just been getting a blowjob from some bird down the road in a toilet. Like,
but did you not also find that he was the one that I think...
He's the worst one out of the lot of them.
Yeah. I think he was the one that was kind of almost like the rage bait for all of us, probably. Yeah. Of his own doing, by the way, because Louis Theroux, absolutely amazing. Like, he's just an incredible documentary maker that I think you and I both said how he kind of holds the awkwardness and just really calmly and just asks the question and just probes, and it's like, oh, if I was stood in front of that person I'd feel really uncomfortable asking this, but he does, and he does it so well. He's brilliant.
Sorry, I was going to say, I didn't realise I saw something about Sacha Baron Cohen the other day. There's a circus school in France that teaches people how to hold that awkwardness just long enough, and it's actually a talent. It's something that can be trained. So I don't know whether he did that or how he's learned it through his interview techniques, but it is brilliant. He holds it so perfectly.
He does, because actually he holds the awkwardness and the silence enough for, and this is the thing, so often we want to jump in and fill the gap, and actually the person in command of the situation is the person who can sit in the uncomfortable silence and wait for you to fill the gap, and that's when people tend to undo themselves. And that's what Louis Theroux does so brilliantly, because he doesn't put words in these people's mouths. Like, he hasn't made this up. He's presenting what they've said. But I don't think it was rage bait in terms of like the way it was edited or anything. It is him that's particularly unpleasant to watch. But I think, of all the people involved in the documentary, he was the one that got the most reaction, certainly from us. But also, did you notice how he was just on this constant content, anxiety-inducing wheel of having to be more and more and more shocking just to get views, because that's how he gets paid. And I felt stressed watching it, like that kind of pressure to be constantly on. And what was really awful is when they were then attacking people in the street, and I think that's when Louis Theroux felt really, really uncomfortable, and with no justification, and how these people are getting away with this sort of stuff, and you know the authorities aren't getting more involved because it's literally just violence and bullying behaviour. It reminded me like Lord of the Flies, like it's awful, and just this sort of mob mentality. So yeah, he was on so many levels the worst one. I think, the Justin guy has a kind of calmer setup, maybe.
Sorry, go on. Say, I take it back. I don't think he's the worst one, actually. Okay. Because he's very outward and obvious with what he does. And I think that makes him a very much predictable and known element. Whereas I think the other guys, they do it more sneakily and more in the shadows and more, like, it's a bit more manipulative. Whereas he is, like you said earlier, the perfect word, rage bait. He does that to get a reaction, to be divisive, to then get the views, to then earn money. But they are all doing the same thing of selling crypto sponsorships and programs and like private Telegram chats and all this sort of stuff. They're all doing those things as well. It's just that Harrison kid is more obvious and overt with it. Yeah. So in that way, I don't think he's the worst one. I think he's shameful, but he's not the worst. I think.
Who would you say was the worst then?
I mean, the people that they had on there that weren't interviewed, obviously the Tates and Dan Brazilian, I can't remember his name. Again, they're the ones that sort of really brought it to the forefront of people's understanding and into the mainstream. And this Harrison lad and Ed Matthews was the other one. Another English lad who goes out to various places and just chats women up and very disrespectful. Again, like it's just disrespectful. And like as a British person, to see a British person online earning money from being disrespectful to people, I just find it so like culturally enraging.
It is, but also, you know, we've been on holiday and seen Brits abroad. They don't necessarily show us in the best light, do they? But interesting, because the one that seemed like he didn't seem as offensive, and he did seem like he had it more together, and he had a partner who was on board with what he was doing, and he had a family, and he was, you know, he wasn't as you say, sort of rage bait, but he's got the strongest connections to Tate and to Trump, and, you know, he's in the sort of upper echelons of kind of the manosphere, and he didn't seem anywhere near as toxic, but really he's at the heart of it. And so yeah, I think you're probably right. The more covert ones are maybe the worst, although I can't say I think Tate's particularly covert, but yeah, but you're right. Harrison to me is the Bonnie Blue of the manosphere, which is interesting because he had her on and he was trying to provoke a reaction, and he got one because he was saying he didn't agree with what she did. But then, as you say, then he has OnlyFans channels that he's making money off. And that's the thing. It's just a pyramid scheme. It's just, they're absolutely taking these young lads for a ride and just getting tons of money out of them and creating a really toxic environment which they cannot really function in society. I mean, it's so damaging to the young lads that and the boys that are getting caught up in this. And what is so sad is they're so close to being good, in the sense of, if you look at the two guys who were interviewed who loved Justin, was it?
Yeah, it was.
And they were saying like some of the messaging around, you know, no one's coming to save you, and you've got to take responsibility for yourself, and you've got to make something of yourself, and you've got to put the work in, and you've got to work hard, and you've got to take care of your body. Like, those are positive messages. Those are good messages for men and women. You know, take care of yourself, to be responsible for yourself, you know, live a healthy life, be the best you can be, because nobody's going to come and do it for you. Those are all messages that probably most of us can get on board with. But then it just flips to, and if there's ever a problem, it was caused by women. They are the reason why you can't have everything that you want in life. So it's like you're so close to having quite a positive impact. But then it's like, but if anything ever goes wrong, if you don't quite get that body, if you don't quite get that girl, if you don't quite get that job, or you're not quite making the money that you want to make, it's women's fault. And it's like, it gets so close and then just completely fucks itself at the end. It's bizarre how you can, do you know what I mean, take something that could be great and completely flip it on its head to actually create so much divide and anger.
Thing is as well, I think they're angry at other men. I don't think they realise this. They're angry at the fact that women are objectified and lusted after and are almost like a commodity. They were saying, oh, well, you don't have to do anything. You just have to look good and you'll get it. You'll get whatever you want. We have to work for it. It's like, who makes that possible? Who is the person that puts them on that pedestal and makes them that? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but also it's not true.
But no, it's not true. But like, again, you have to deconstruct this ridiculous way of thinking. Like, you are the person that's saying, oh, they look amazing, therefore they get it all. Whereas if you just, like you said, you need to be better, you need to do better, you need to focus. Like, that's the right messaging to have. And I'm not being funny, but if someone's prettier than you, that's biology. That's not them beating you because they're doing better, you know what I mean? And it's these men that are paying to watch them, that are paying to see them or whatever. Like, they're the ones that are lusting after them, and then they're complaining that they're doing well. Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? So they're angry at is themselves. They're angry at the fact that, like, these two chaps or whoever, I mean, they actually seemed, like you say, fairly grounded, and they were trying to make their business work, and it was the motivational side of things that they was latching onto, not the objectification of women. Tiki Toki guy, Harrison, he is the one that's got the OnlyFans models. He's the one that's rage baiting them to get his views, and he's the one that's giving them the platform, but then also saying, oh, they get it easy. So what are you doing? I get that he's doing it because it's business. At the end of the day, he can slate them with one of his channels, and then he can promote them with another. So he's making people that want to see their downfall, and then he's elevating them even more. So he's sort of...
That's what I mean. He's not stupid.
Yeah, he's not stupid.
Yeah.
He's feeding that narrative and going, oh, well, look at how great these people are. And look at you. And yeah, they're con men. Is all they are. They are ridiculous, underdeveloped con men. Is the way I see it. I'm sorry. Some people can come for me or whatever. It's just the way I feel. I've got a daughter at the end of the day, and if anyone spoke to them, or spoke to her the way that they speak about women, I would be in a world of trouble, because I think it's disgusting, and you've got to call it out, because otherwise this is where it continues to perpetuate and go on if it doesn't get called out, if it doesn't get spoken about. And I'm so glad that Louis Theroux's done this documentary.
Well, this is it. I think it was needed, because we had the big conversation last year, didn't we, when adolescence came out, and it was so shocking. We did an episode on that, and it was the first time I'd even heard of the Manosphere, really. And that's the thing. I think this has been raging on for a while, and just not so many of us have been completely oblivious to it. I know Louis Theroux was saying in an interview recently he's got 3 boys, and during COVID they were in lockdown, they were watching stuff online, and they were laughing about some of the shit that Tate was spouting. And Louis Theroux was like, who's this? And he'd never heard of it. Like, it was going on completely oblivious, and only those who were targeted were sort of picking this up. And now it is being talked about in the mainstream. We're talking about it. And so many podcasts and stuff I listen to are talking about it. It's all over the place, and it needs to be, because it's scary if it's not, of the damage that it's doing. I mean, and just to give some context, what percentage of Gen Z men do you think believe that promoting women's equality has gone too far and is now discriminating against men? What percentage?
Gen Z men believe that women's rights and equality has gone too far. What percentage of men? I'd say 35%.
57.
57?
57% Gen Z men believe that promoting women's equality has gone so far it is now discriminating against men, according to King's College London survey that was done last year.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. It's really scary.
That's mad. That's over half of the male population of that year or age demographic.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's nearly 60%.
Yeah.
With that in mind, how many do you think Gen Z men said they would like the country to be the way it used to be, rather than 50-50?
What percentage of men of Gen Z
would like it to go back to the way it was when women were...
If the last one was 57, I don't want to even know. It's going to be higher, isn't it? It's going to be like 70-something.
70-something? Okay, well, luckily it's not as bad as that.
Oh, thank God.
It's 62%.
Oh, thank God.
But we're still over 60%. Yeah, we're over 60% of Gen Z men would like our country to go back to the way it was, when women had no rights.
Stuck in the kitchen.
Yeah, raising children, couldn't vote, couldn't work, and they could do what they like.
Diabolical, isn't it?
Yeah, 62%.
People do understand that it's called progression for a reason, right? The whole point of it is we move through and evolve, and this is devolution as opposed to evolution.
Yeah.
Jesus wept.
Yeah. And
There's more.
well,
God, please don't.
I mean, the good thing is at least is that people are aware of it.
Yeah.
So 60% of Gen Z individuals, so men and women,
Mm-hmm.
both believe there is a significant tension between men and women in society today. So 60% are in agreement that there is a problem between men and women. And we've done an episode recently about what feels like the gender divide, and it's getting bigger rather than smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the progress we're making, despite the fact there's supposed to be equality, despite the fact we're supposed to be evolving as a species and coming together, but instead there is so much tension that's pulling us apart. There is, violence against girls and women that's become a global epidemic. There is the manosphere that is which is basically ruining the young male population. And I know there will be really good guys out there who are not taking any of this seriously, but sadly there is a significant number of people who are making the likes of Harrison and Justin and whoever the other guy was very wealthy. Sadly, I think on the global political stage there are men who are feeding the manosphere from the top end of the pyramid, who are spouting this shit. And
You've got one of them in the White House, haven't you?
well, I was just about to say one of the guys on the show was Sneako, who's been banned off many platforms because of his political perspective on and how it is becoming his manosphere political views. And with that, you've also got, the likes of Elon Musk and people like that who are very successful, wealthy men who don't treat women particularly well. And
He's got 14 kids.
yeah, by
6 different women or something, isn't it?
something like that. Yeah. So, you've got these kind of people who are very visibly at the top of the pyramid, looking down and pulling a lot of strings. And there may be the rest of us going, this is crazy, but there's enough people who are listening to get them into those positions or buying their products. So it is a really worthy topic, and I'm really glad that Louis Theroux did it, because we need to get it together where men don't feel that they're on the fringes of society and therefore so susceptible to the likes of the manosphere. At the end of the day, boys are vulnerable to this stuff. There's a reason why they're able to prey on young boys, because they do feel marginalized and squashed, and that they're struggling. And so this does feel like the answer. So we've got to deal with those real issues that men are feeling.
I think but yeah, I agree with that. And it's education, isn't it? It's the best way to get through to people is education. There's companies and there's people like this that target, and they are very good at honing in on their target audience and making sure it gets to them. But again, as parents, we've got to look out for our kids, and this is where these guys that are on their podcasts and stuff like that, this is where they've been failed by their parents or parent in most cases. And as well as a guy, if I saw one of my friends sort of going down this route, I'd be like, I'd be, hang on a second, this is a bit too much, Yeah, I don't think I couldn't be friends with these people, because it would just piss me off.
Well, the thing is, you have to, in order to have a relationship with anyone, be it a friendship or a romantic relationship, you have to share values. That's why it used to be considered that you would have a good relationship with your family, because you'd have shared values. The reason why I think there's so much estrangement now in families is because they don't share values now. And that's what is the foundation to any relationship. I've said before, dating profiles get it all wrong. It shouldn't be what are your interests, it should be what are your values and how do you live those. Because that's what you're going to match on more than anything. But, you've got to think about how it's all come about, because we can keep getting angry and shocked at the manosphere, but how have we got to this point? Well, actually, as you just said, there is a lack of male role models for these boys. As I said, I do think there's lost boys. The common denominator here was single parents, and I know their mums were probably trying to do their best, but have in the process given them everything and given them too much. There is the fact that we don't have that same community. You don't have the tribe, you don't have the elders, you don't have the same kind of respect for certain roles and certain people within your community, or have places that you can go outside of your own family to kind of get that support that felt safe. So there's a breakdown in community structure and social structure, everything moving online, people, COVID and everything kind of making us very isolated, being more receptible to then what you're seeing online. The whole social media, what is being projected as everybody else has got something I want and I don't have. It's that kind of rose-tinted, perfect aesthetic life that people are striving for, as opposed to just looking within your own community or your own village or whatever, your own tribe, and thinking I'm doing okay and I'm supported and I'm loved and I know these people and I'm going to inherit the job that my father did, and I've got purpose and I've got a structure and I've got a place to be and a place I belong. All of that has disappeared and they've kind of filled the void. Then you've got the education system and the fact that it was set up for boys, but actually girls are outperforming boys across every subject, across every country, that the system just does not work for our young boys. It just doesn't. It's not set up to get the best out of them. To be honest, you and I can get on our soapbox about this for a whole another episode about the fact that the education system doesn't serve boys or girls. But as it's currently structured, it's definitely better for girls than boys. And actually it's been seen that girls do better in mixed classes, boys do better in boys only classes, because I think they don't have this constant comparison to girls who are outperforming them all the time, and maybe don't feel like they're falling behind all the time. And I know we've had that struggle with our own son, and being one of the youngest in the year and just feeling like he can't keep up. And he's not silly, he's not stupid, but he's just not at the same level as like a girl who's almost a whole year older than him in his class. There's a massive difference and they learn differently. And that's been proven, across the board. For every 100 girls who earn a bachelor's degree, only 75 boys do. So almost a quarter more of girls come out with a bachelor's degree than boys. 17% of white boys on free school meals go on to sustained employment or education after GCSE, whereas 27% of girls do. So again, 10% more of girls from lower family income families do better after school than boys. Double the amount of boys are excluded from school than girls because it just doesn't work for them. And unless we start to address the education, the community, the support for boys, they are always going to feel like they don't compete, they can't compare. Girls have got an advantage. Life's hard on me. I don't feel like I have a purpose. I don't feel like I belong to anything. And therefore, this manosphere actually looks really appealing when it's saying you can make tons of money. Just invest in my crypto, come in my Telegram, and then I'm going to tell you all about how every problem you've ever had in life is due to women and how we need to suppress them and how that makes you a man. I can see why that's appealing, to be honest. If I was feeling lost, if I didn't have a role model showing me what love and respect looked like towards my mum, I just saw her working really hard. And if she's working that hard, she's not really around that much. So I'm left to my own devices. And you can see how this happens. And I think unless we start to deal with the underlying root causes of some of these issues, then this is not going to go away.
Completely agree.
And interestingly, on that point of single mothers as well, 6 times more boys in father absent homes. Boys in father absent homes are 6 times more likely to use drugs than those with fathers present. The risk to girls remains unchanged. So it's not, I think the impact of not having dad around for boys especially is really hard.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me, does surprise me and horrifies me all at the same time. 6 times more likely. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about it, it actually is.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying regardless.
Therefore, you can understand why, for the first time ever, parents are preferring and wanting girls over boys. Let that sink in.
Let that sink in.
Oh, I love that bloke. I find him so funny. I can't remember what he's called.
That ginger bloke.
The ginger guy on.
He's called
I
that
don't
ginger
think we
bloke.
can call him the ginger bloke.
His name is that ginger bloke.
Oh, okay, fine. Right, well, if he said it, then it's fine.
Yeah.
He's hilarious on TikTok. Let that sink in. You're going to have to go and look him up. We won't do him justice, but he does a brilliant skit about the different types of shit that we use in our language, like and the different meanings for it. It's so good.
Have a piss, on the piss, take the piss.
Yeah.
What was it? Shits and Gigs did that. They said, how many different ways can you use the word piss? And it was something like 27 different ways.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's really good. I'll find it.
Oh, he did a really good one. It's like the difference between horse shit, bullshit,
Give a shit,
the shit,
yeah,
that shit, all the different kind of meanings around the word shit. It was really good.
You've gone off piece.
Totally not doing it justice. I might, do you know what? I'm going to stick a link to that skit in the show notes so you can go and check it out because it's so funny. Anyway, let that sink in. Coming back to what we're supposed to be talking about, because we're not funny enough to pull that off. I mean, you're quite funny, but I'm definitely not funny enough to pull that off. So I'm the sensible one of the two. So yeah, for the first time ever in the record of history, in wealthy nations, the preference is shifting from boys to girls.
I mean, again, I don't know what you want me to say to it, but I'm not surprised. I mean, I don't know if that's... I'd be interested to know what the stats are for how many boys versus how many girls people have, because, or like the population, because if it's a case of more people having boys, then there's more people to go, I wish I'd have had a girl. You know what I mean? So...
Well, The Economist reported that the excess male birth rates peaked around 2000, roughly 1.7 million per year, and have now dropped to around 200,000.
Okay, so what's that got to do with the Manosphere, though?
Because the reason why parents want girls over boys is because the society that we live in, it's scary to raise a boy. It seems harder to raise a boy. The responsibility of raising a boy is so much bigger, and it's because of the likes of this, because of the Manosphere. Not the only reason, but that's a big reason why parents are going, I'd rather have a girl. Girls are doing better in education. Girls are doing better at getting jobs. Girls are more likely to take care of the family when they get older. There's a reason why the saying says, if you have a girl, it's for life.
Yeah.
If you have a boy, it's until he finds a wife.
Yeah.
Girls are more likely to care for their parents than boys. They're more likely to remember to, come over for Easter or have you over for Christmas. So there's more of a social responsibility that goes with girls. And with the likes of the Manosphere and the suicide rates and all the rest of it, and unemployment for young men, raising boys today is a terrifying perspective in comparison to raising a girl, with all their stroppiness and their hormones and their emotions and their spats and this so-and-so is not my best friend anymore. With all of that taken into account, girls are actually perceived to be easier. And a lot of the stuff that is driving that is where boys fit in society. So boys are feeling it. They're feeling marginalised. They're struggling. And they're looking in the wrong places as to why that is. They're looking to just blame girls when that's actually not the case. The system is failing them, not girls are failing them. But at the same time, parents are looking at that and going, parenting's tough. It's hard. I love being a parent, but it's so hard, especially today when there's so many high expectations and, you can't do right for doing wrong and you're burnt out and all the rest of it. To then add in, and I've got to be scared that my boy is not being sucked into the Manosphere online up in his bedroom. And will he have a job? And will he function in society? It's a really big... scary. And we had this conversation actually the other week on here when we were talking about raising boys and girls, and you said you felt you had a huge responsibility in raising a girl, and I said I feel the pressure of raising a boy as a woman. I think it's something that I'm really acutely aware of, and we're raising him together. He has a good strong role model in you. You are a very emotionally intelligent male. Like,
Oh, thank you very much.
you are. That's why you can come on the podcast and have these kind of conversations.
This
Which
is why I can come on the podcast. What do you mean I can come on? We co-host it, you dick.
I didn't mean that to come out the way it did.
This is why you're allowed out the cupboard.
I mean, this is why you come on the podcast. If you weren't emotionally intelligent, you wouldn't come on this podcast and have conversations about feelings and relationships and putting yourself in perspective of others' shoes and trying to see the other side and having an intelligent conversation about it. You are an emotionally intelligent man raising a boy. Like, I've got an upper hand in that regard. I'm not doing it on my own. And still it terrifies me. I'll be honest, it does. That's after a week of having the stroppiest little girl ever. I mean, she's been such hard work the last week, but it's because we went away for the first time last weekend on our own since we've had her, and she's making me pay for it. But, you know, even without all of that, it worries me. I worry about messing it up for him and not doing the best job for him by either making it too easy for him, that he doesn't learn the lessons that he needs to learn, he doesn't mature the way he does, or not being on it enough and allowing him to, you know, be groomed by these men and these ideas. Like, it's such a fine line to walk. And I think it's really, really scary. And that's why so many people are choosing, well, not choosing because you don't get a choice, but, you know, are saying, I would rather raise a girl. Yeah. And I just think that's remarkable because we've grown up. It's just, it's shocking to me because throughout history, you wanted a boy to carry on the family name. You wanted a boy because he could earn you money, because he could inherit the family business, because a girl required you to pay a dowry and you lost her to her in-laws' family, basically, and she became the property of her husband. It's changed so much to the point where boys just seem like too much to handle.
Yeah. Again, you're on a roll and then you stop expecting me to say something
profound
and enlightening. And I'll be honest with you, you've hit the nail on the head. So
it's horrible. But years ago, when there was a one-child rule in China, they were killing girls, girl babies. And even in, you know, the likes of China and Japan, even in families are choosing to be one and done, which is another thing that's happening at the moment because of the economic situation. A lot of families are choosing to just have one child and they're still preferring a girl over a boy. And even in those countries as well, this isn't just a UK thing. This is globally in wealthy countries are preferring a girl over a boy, even if you're only going to have one.
I see they say it, boys are harder when they're younger, but they're easier when they're older. And it's vice versa for girls, isn't it? They're easier when they're younger, but then they're difficult when they're older.
I think the idea...
I am terrified of when our daughter hits her teenage years because, yeah, like you said, the tough week that we've had for us daring to be like conscious individual humans and taking ourselves away for a weekend. How very dare we? She's worse than a dog. Normally it used to be like the dog would sulk, wouldn't it, as soon as it see the suitcases, but she has been terrible. So God knows what she can be like when she's a teenager.
To be fair to her, she's 4 years old.
Yes.
It's not happened before. It's like, yeah, it's not something she's used to. So it's upset her routine.
Yeah. It's like a looking glass into the future, isn't it?
I think the reason people say that is because when boys are little, they tend to be sort of loud and roaring and running around and charging, and, you know, there's testosterone surges at 4 years old, and, you know, there's all that. Whereas girls, when they hit puberty and they have the hormones and the emotions and the, as I said, the sort of more complex, perhaps, structures of who's friends with who and all that kind of stuff, whereas the boys have a problem, they tend to sort of sort it out and get on with it. But I also think that that's a little bit narrow-minded as well, because they say that, you know, girls are easier when they're younger because, you know, they'll sit and colour and play dolls and do quieter activities, but are harder when they're older. But then 75% of all suicides are male because they're just not given the same, perhaps, access or tools to speak about their emotions, and so they become easier because they stop communicating how they feel. And their silence isn't actually easier, it's causes potentially a lot more damage. So I don't know whether boys being easier when they're older, actually, that they're not easier, they're just quiet and quietly getting sucked into the manosphere or committing suicide or having issues that they're just not telling you about. Does that make them easier? I don't think so.
No, I agree. Yeah, I completely agree with you. We have to look out for our young people. We have to look out for everyone ultimately, but there are a lot of new challenges, I think, compared to what they used to be. Certainly there's more spotlight shone on it now.
Definitely.
So it's 100% something that everyone's got to be on top of and try and keep an eye out for. But that doesn't mean that we don't do it for the girls. When I was younger, it was a lot of girls were self-harming. That become a big thing, didn't it? Like cutting and that side of things, that become a really big thing. And yeah, I knew a number of people that would do stuff like that, and it wasn't just the alternative bunch. It was a lot of girls that were super self-critical, and yeah, we have to be careful with our children.
And that's the thing, is that girls are better at masking. And actually, we haven't talked about the blight of girls and what they face, and perhaps we'll save that for another episode and come back and revisit this from their perspective. Yeah, we have to look out for both. And as you say, there's no such thing as an easy child, or, you know, a preference one way or the other in regards to that, because raising kids is hard regardless of what their sex is. But I think it's just the vulnerabilities are different. And as much as we can say, you know, it's the education system, it's the community, ultimately you can look at where they go to school, you can look at the friends they have, you can look at homeschooling as alternative options to the public school options, but creating an environment that feels safe to voice how you feel, having good male role models, and even if you're a single mum or, you know, separated, finding other male role models that are good and healthy, whether that's, you know, older cousins or uncles or friends, dads, whatever it is. And I know obviously there's a risk to that as well, but, you know, trying to find healthy outlets, trying to create that support and that environment, and also keeping an eye on your children and what they're accessing online.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to spy on your kids, but the alternative is far worse.
Yeah, there's applications you can get now where you can monitor what they're looking at and how long for and what they're doing, which I've said to people, we've had this conversation before, dumb phones, I think, are a better way forward until kids have grown up a bit. I don't think at a young age having a smartphone is a good idea, but there are parents that just go, oh, they want it so they can have it, and that's fine for them if that's what works. But I think that
it's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, but also that's just a case of I'm just going to give them what they want, and then there's no sort of consequences, I suppose, or like accountability. So yeah, I think dumb phones or monitoring software being put in as a has to be done.
Yeah, and then the values that you exhibit at home as well, and how you live those values and allow them to have purpose and responsibility and feel comfortable in their own skin and feel like they have a reason to be and somewhere they belong and somewhere that is safe, and creating that environment at home. It starts at home, it always does. And as they get older, you have less and less influence, which is why it's so important to embed those things when they're younger. I mean, we have a very strong sense of belonging in the fact that we say we are Team Theroux, and Team Theroux has values, and then the children know what their values are and how we live those values. And if someone behaves in a way that doesn't live those values, then we talk about that. So yeah, I think it's really important to help your children articulate their feelings, but also give them purpose, give them responsibility that's safe, make them feel like they belong. Because I think a lot, as I said at the very beginning, every single one of those men on that program was just a little lost boy looking for recognition and validation that he was successful, that he was doing okay. And that's what it was all about. It was just attention seeking and trying to be at the top of a pyramid.
It wasn't the Lost Boys of Peter Pan. It was the Lost Boys of Streatham. So yeah, I think is that not where he come from?
I don't know.
Or is it
I
East
take that back.
London?
I don't want to claim any affiliation to Streatham.
Yeah, I can't remember whereabouts he was from. I think it was East London. Actually, Streatham's southwest, isn't it? Or southeast? No, I'm not sure. Well, this has been a heavy episode. If you haven't seen the Louis Theroux's documentary on the Manosphere, 100% recommend it.
It's on Netflix, yeah.
He's brilliant. I mean, again, I don't think I've seen anything that Louis Theroux's done that's been bad. He is a top tier interviewer and journalist, ultimately, isn't he? So, yeah, definitely check it out.
It's such an important issue, and you will know someone who'll have a son or a daughter, or, you know, it's just important to know to be a good part of society, isn't it?
We hope you enjoyed the episode. We certainly enjoyed recording it. If you have any views yourself, feel free to send them in to us via a DM or an email. It'd be great to hear from you all, and we shall see you all again next week.